Hey everyone, welcome into the Voice of College Football. It's a Thursday, and Thursday for me over the past year has meant Pickleball Thursday. It's Pickleball Thursday. Appreciate you stopping by at the Voice of College Football for the College Football Show. We continue to line up the best guests in college football. Are they the best guests? Okay, I'm a little bit biased, but we have put together one heck of a lineup of guests. We've talked to more people to line them up for next week. CBS Sports college football writer is going to be on board next week. Came across an article. I have to credit Minnie Hunt, who led me to this particular article that deals with the subject that's being impacted, a position in the sport that's being impacted by the transfer portal and NIL. So we wanted to catch up with that writer. Minnie also gave me another great idea for a interview that we will be pursuing soon. And then also, yes, we've lined up some other great guests for next week. For the remainder of this week, you're stuck with me. And possibly a short show, possibly a long show. We will leave the call-in line in the chat. I've been disconnected from college football today, as I am most days these days, although I will tell you that it's been a great day for the Voice of College Football. Behind the scenes, a ridiculously good day. Our guys, Chris and TJ, my ops managers, they have been phenomenal in interviewing candidates. I spoke with one of our up-and-comers early this morning, and she is already and set to go. And so just be welcoming and be anticipating some great additions here at the Voice of College Football. We met with some potential sponsors today. We also had a little marketing meeting with MH as well. So a good day behind the scenes here at the Voice of College Football, as I will leave the call-in line here in the chat. And one day soon, I will have a real camera once again, and I will not be typing on my laptop camera. Someday, when we, again, one of these weekends, we're going to get that back in operation. But I do appreciate all of you. Leave the comments and questions there in the chat. The call-in line's available as well. Amazon links in the description section of all the videos. When you shop on Amazon, please use the link that we provide. I think you've heard the spiel before, and the spiel is real, that you can contribute to the channel and the network financially without spending a penny. Use the Amazon link. You are not going to notice it otherwise, so you might as well. It's a good thing to do. Matthew Miller's on the line too. Good to see you. And again, the call-in line's available. I'm going to hit on a point that Ryan Day apparently made here in the last few days, and we will get to that in just a second. And then we will look at just odds and ends. Anything I can pick up, anything that you would like to bring up here over the next several minutes, we are ready and willing to talk about. So let's get right to this headline that I see here. Ryan Day says that the Big Ten deserves 4 AQ spots in the CFP. The first thing that stands out about this headline would be that if you're a college football fan and you look at this headline, I'm guessing you know who Ryan Day is. So that's a guess. That's a stretch that I'm going to make, that you know who Ryan Day is. And there's nothing wrong with identifying Ryan Day as being attached to and belonging to Ohio State. No issue with that, certainly. But then if those same people aren't aware of what an AQ is, I would think that they would be more likely to not know what an AQ is than not to know that Ryan Day is the head coach at Ohio State. But that's a mere formality there. Okay, Adam Rittenberg, who has been around the sport for a long, long time, we see him presenting this for ESPN. And I can tell already I'm not going to be agreeing with Ryan Day. After winning the national championship, Ohio State coach Ryan Day would like to see future models include at least 4 automatic qualifying spots for the expanded Big Ten. Now, we will find out here in a second if he actually did state, let's see if this title is accurate, that he says that the Big Ten deserves 4 AQ spots, because that in and of itself is a faulty statement. It's a faulty hypothesis in and of itself. I will explain in just a second as we look at Paul Feinbaum. And Jackson, have you lined up my appearance on Feinbaum yet? Jackson's working on that. As college football leaders discuss the next version of the CFP, which begins in 2026, recent pushback against templates that include more automatic spots for the Big Ten and the SEC. And apparently the Big Ten and the SEC are at odds right now. They seem to be in harmony, in sync together on this 442213. And now Greg Sankey, as you see on the featured articles there to the right, is pushing the 511 model. And I'm going to side with Greg Sankey and the SEC on this one. There's no reason to have these automatic bids aside from conference champions. Those are the only teams that should have an automatic berth into the playoff, a conference champion, because you have tangibly earned something. Otherwise, you're being selected. And one of my favorite terms for the college football playoff, and I've done a poor job of staying with this, I should have rode this out for the last 11 years, because initially when this was announced back in 2013 and leading into the first CFP in 2014, the first thing that I was writing at that point was, this is not a playoff. It's what? Let's see if anybody gets it. This is not a playoff. It's anybody in the chat. Anybody want to play along? Anybody know where I'm leading with this? This is not a playoff. We'll leave it right there. Matthew Miller. I knew I could count on him. It's an invitational. That doesn't mean it's not legit. It is legit. The best teams in the sport are playing in the quote unquote playoff. So I'm not saying it's not legit, but let's call it what it is. A playoff is a format where objective criteria is determined, and that is what determines the playoff teams. Let's say you've got a 12-team league and you say the top 4 teams based on record, everybody plays everyone, and the top 4 teams reach the playoff. And then if there's a tie for the 4th position, then the head-to-head between numbers 4 and 5 is the determining factor for the playoff. That's a criteria that is a objective criteria toward a playoff. An invitational means the teams have to be invited. And everyone in the college football playoff right now has to be invited aside from 5 teams. So it's automatic criteria, an objective system for 5 of the 12, and going forward, 5 of the 16. And in the past, it's been 0 out of 4. There was in the past, during the 14 playoff, there was no way to guarantee that you would make the playoff. And I would challenge fans with this because they thought it was a trick question, or they thought that I had lost my mind. But I used to make this point all the time, and I would say, okay, we got a 14 college football playoff. What can you do? What can a team do to guarantee that they will make the playoffs? And you know what the answer was? The answer was nothing. They couldn't do anything. And the seemingly obvious answer was, well, if they win all their games, they're going to make the playoffs. No. Back when there was a Pac-12 and 5 conferences and 4 bids, what if every conference champion went undefeated? Somebody would be left out. So nothing you could do would guarantee you would make the playoff. Now that has changed. And now we know that if you win your conference championship, you will make the playoff. But the other 7 positions in the 12-team playoff and the other 11 positions in the 16-team playoff are at large. It's an invitational. You have to be invited. SMU was invited. Indiana was invited. Alabama was not invited. Ole Miss, those teams were not invited. Were they just as good? Were they better? We don't know. Did they deserve it more? That's all debatable. Were their records as good? No. That's an objective criteria. SMU, Indiana, those teams had better records than Alabama and Ole Miss and South Carolina. They had better records. They had better winning percentage. Did they deserve it more? I don't know. Did they earn it? No, not necessarily. They won more games. All right, so let's get back to Ryan Day's comments here. I don't know where these took place. So at the spring meetings, support group for the model of the 5 conference champions and the 11 at-large spots, Brett Yormark and league administrators last week also voiced support for the 5+11 CFP model. I don't understand that in any such way. Maybe Brett Yormark has faulty information and he has looked back at the Big 12's position in the various college football rankings at the end of the season to see that the Big 12, and check out the video that I posted last week with the 5+11, where I went back through the history of the CFP back to 2014, and I laid it out for all of you when and what teams would have made a 5+11 model. And then I even went to the 6+10 model because, of course, there was a Pac-12, so it would have been a 6+10. So I do both. And you see that the Big 12 would have had more entries than 2 most of the time. However, that is a Big 12 that contains Oklahoma and Texas. That Big 12 does not exist anymore. Arizona State, for as well as they played last year, Colorado and Utah do not make up for Oklahoma and Texas. So Brett Yormark, I believe, is making, unless I'm missing something here, we got Justin Walker, Coos' Corner, coming on to talk West Virginia football in the Big 12 at some point next week. I will ask Coos if, based on his Big 12 perspective, whether he thinks that this is a strategically smart move by Brett Yormark, or on the surface, I don't want to jump to conclusions here unless I'm missing something because I've not thought this through, but just on the surface, this does not appear to be an advantageous move by Brett Yormark in the Big 12 to say, you know what, we're going to leave it up to the committee to select 11 other teams, and we got our one spot, and we believe we're at least going to get one other spot out of those 11, and we may get 2, we may get 3 more. Last season, the Big 12 would have only had the one spot. BYU was number 17. They would have been left out. Now, should they have been left out? That's another matter. They would have been left out at number 17. So the Big 12, Brett Yormark, is flying in the face of the only evidence we have so far in a 16-team playoff in the current structure of the Big 12 that there would have not been a second Big 12 team. But he's still, apparently, yes, he has voiced support for a 5+11 model. The Big Ten has not publicly advocated for a specific playoff model, but it has discussed one that would automatically include 4 teams for the Big Ten and the SEC, 2 from the Big 12 and the ACC, etc. We're in the Big Ten, and we have 18 teams and some of the best programs in the country. Day told ESPN, I feel like we deserve at least 4 automatic qualifiers. Ryan Day, we would love to have you on the show. You're a great coach. You're an excellent coach. But this is faulty thinking. Do you know who deserves to have 4 automatic qualifiers or 3 or 2. No one does. We haven't played any games yet. I don't care what the history of the Big Ten is. I don't care what the history of the SEC is. This has to be earned in the current football season, and it's not been earned. So what's going on here? If I was one of these football coaches, and certainly if I was one of these commissioners, would I be advocating for my league? Of course I would be, or I wouldn't have a job for long. Soon I'll be advocating for the entire sport, as I have for years and years and years, but in a more official capacity. Wink, wink. MH, in a more wink, wink capacity, officially, I will be advocating for the sport. And so I respect and understand that these coaches and administrators, and certainly the commissioners, have to advocate for their league. And I understand that if Ryan Day knows that Big Ten Commissioner Tony Petitti is pushing for 4-2-2, that he is going to follow the company line and put it out there. But it can't be logically defended. It can't be logically defended. Why does the Big Ten deserve 4 AQs? It doesn't. We haven't played a freaking game yet. What if the Big Ten goes out and loses every non-conference game? The Big Ten deserves 4 AQs? No. It's the stupidest notion concerning this playoff that leagues have already earned or deserve. And usually when you hear the word deserve, it's usually not deserved. That's one of the most overused words in the English language, especially in our culture. So-and-so deserves this, they deserve that. Usually they don't deserve it. Usually they don't. They haven't earned it. They don't deserve it. They've done nothing. And in this case, the Big Ten, fill in the blank, SEC, even the Big Ten or the Big 12 and the ACC, the 2 spots under this format, they have not earned them. One will be earned by a conference championship. Hopefully you're following my logic here. All right, we've got Dave's here. Moose is here. Moose says, that's your coach, Mark. Well, he's not coaching football here, so I don't care what he has to say. I'm going to pick it apart. I'm going to criticize him and what he has to say if I don't agree with it. And again, I don't even think how you can fundamentally agree with it. We're not picking playoff spots in reverse. We're not picking historic playoff spots. If we were doing that, sure, the Big Ten's earned a certain number of playoff spots based on history, but we don't know what's going to transpire in the future. So the teams have to earn the spots. Therefore, the leagues, by extension, have to earn the spots. Well, is he my coach? He coaches my favorite team, or at least my favorite team to this point. There could be a future announcement on that. But he's not my favorite coach. Not my favorite coach. I have 1, 2. I thought there was a third. I have 2 favorite coaches in college football. 2? Yeah, I guess just the 2. My 2 favorite coaches in college football. Edward says Urban Meyer. No, I'm talking about active coaches. And yes, Edward, in terms of being on the sideline and running a football program and a football team, absolutely, that guy was as good as anybody in the history of the sport. And now, necessarily, I'm not going to defend his behavior, but I'm talking about as a football coach. Yeah. I still remember telling everybody I could get a hold of at the time that when Urban Meyer was hired at Ohio State, I said, we just won the national championship. So anyway, back to the topic. I've got two favorite football coaches, and neither one of those coaches are Ryan Day. Not that I dislike Ryan Day. I'm just kind of neutral on Ryan Day. I think he's doing a fine job. I think last December and January, he did an exceptional job. But I've got two favorite football coaches. If you've listened to me and been paying attention. All right, back to the article. They noted how the most recent Big Ten expansion added the top teams from the original Pac-12. I guess they're the top teams. Utah won the Pac-12 championship 3 years in a row. Anyway, including the only two, Oregon and Washington, that made the 14 CFP and played for national titles. Washington reached the championship game after the 23 season, blah, blah, blah. We already know this. You would have had at least a team or two. Okay. I understand what he's doing here. He's advocating for the Big Ten, but this is all based on the past. That would be like the NFL saying, we're going to survey the past and determine how strong is the NFC East, the NFC Central, the NFC, they don't even have an NFC Central anymore, do they? The NFC North, the South, the West. And based on history, we're going to give playoff spots to those divisions based on history. Well, how stupid would that be? Quote, you would have had at least a team or two in the CFP from out there. Well, that's not true. If you took those four schools, USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon, and had a 12-team playoff, you would not have one or two of them in every year. We've run those numbers. Check out the video. I'm guessing you would have had, again, we ran the numbers. We displayed all the teams that would have made 12-team playoffs over the last, and 16-team playoffs over the last 11 years out of the Pac-12. And out of those four schools, like 5 times in 12 years. So it only makes sense when you have 18 teams, especially the quality of teams that you would have that many teams representing the Big Ten. They added that a CFP model with more automatic spots will benefit the sport because it will incentivize stronger non-conference scheduling. Will it really? Especially given the discrepancies in conference scheduling models. That depends on the situation. That is not an accurate statement. That is a case-by-case statement. It depends on whether you win the games, or if you lose the games, who you lose to. Are you losing to a Texas team that's eventually going to go to the SEC championship game, like Michigan did last year, and be one of the 4 best teams in college football? Or are you going to lose to an Oklahoma team that goes 6-7? See, that all depends on the outcome of the game, the win or the loss. Obviously, a win's going to help you regardless, or it at least cannot be counted against you, even if you beat the worst Power 4 team in the country. But if you lose, it's going to depend on the narrative and the optics of the game. That could hurt you considerably if you lose that big non-conference game, or could actually even help you if it's a close loss to an excellent team. If Ohio State or Texas, you can use either one in this example, obliterates their schedule and goes 13-0 and into the playoff as a conference champion, and the other loses their only game, or no, let's say loses 3 games, loses 3 games. They're 9-3, but they lost one of those games to that team that was the best team in the country, but they only lost by a field goal. That's actually going to help their resume, and it should. So this statement here about how this is going to incentivize stronger non-conference scheduling and that it's going to help teams that schedule more difficult non-conference games, that is on a case-by-case basis, clearly. So that's not correct. It's correct in certain situations. We know that the Big Ten and the Big 12 play 9 games, and the SEC and the ACC play 8 games in conference. Ohio State reached the CFP championship game and won the Natty with no Power 4 opponents in non-conference play, and Michigan did it the year before. I understand that the SEC does not play non-conference games, and therefore playing 8 conference games with 4 non-conference games gives them much more scheduling flexibility with a non-conference schedule, because you can add a second difficult game and still play 2 cream puffs. But let's understand that the SEC, even now, even though it's been diminished and the Big Ten has been elevated, that top to bottom, the schedules are still, to date, I don't know what's going to happen this fall, to date, are the most difficult, top to bottom. So you can't compare the SEC's 8 games to the Big 12's 9 games, because even though they're playing an additional power conference team in the Big 12, they don't play as difficult a schedule. Give me 9 games against Baylor and Texas Tech and Houston and Cincinnati and UCF instead of 8 games against Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, etc. Dave's concerned about playing 16 or 17 games with the 105-man roster. With 120, it's about maxed out. You have to stay healthy, and it all takes a couple of injuries during that long of a run. But in the NFL, you can hire somebody off of waivers. In college football, you can't. I'm concerned about the length of the season with 105. And it does not appear as though that's going to be an issue for at least the next couple seasons, as the settlement currently, if it lands the way we're expecting it to, will include roster limitations that are going to come in phases, and grandfathered in will be the roster limitations that exist now. To say that a little clearer, Judge Wilkin has plainly stated that she prefers not penalizing all these student athletes by cutting them because they did not begin their collegiate careers under the understanding in football of 105 roster limit. So again, I think these schools are in a safe place for at least a few more years. At the very least, folks, we are here to check in at 4 p.m. Eastern Time every Monday through Friday. We usually present a full show, of course, with some great guests, my analysis as well, right here at the Voice of College Football. We appreciate your Super Chat contributions, and certainly we will look to do a watch party. So I know that I promised one of those last month. What happened was the computer crashed, and we had some issues there. And we also had to work through some YouTube issues. That was more of the situation because YouTube gave us a strike the last time we attempted a watch party. However, I believe we're going to attempt it a different way. MH, thank you again for another tremendous suggestion. that I had contemplated in a different way, but she kind of brought clarity to the way we can execute this. So I will announce a watch party for later this month for all YouTube and Patreon members. And we did have a winner in terms of the game we're going to watch. So there's no reason to delay any longer in regards to what game we're going to watch. I believe I've deleted that banner, unfortunately. But 2021 Michigan, Ohio State was the winner of our poll. So our watch party coming up this month, 2021 Michigan, Ohio State. I will enjoy that one immensely. And I know what you're thinking. Mark, you clearly selected that one just to enjoy it yourself. But 2021 Michigan, Ohio State, that is going to be the game we're going to enjoy together on our watch party. So be a Patreon member or a YouTube member, and we will see you for the big watch party. And there's all sorts of good reasons to be a member here at the Voice of College Football. We are just about 3 months away, minus counting down, less than 3 months away from not just games, but my predictions, which are pretty damn good all the time. Yeah, I had an off season last year, but I finished with a flurry, picking all 11 college football playoff games correctly. And 64% against the spread. So we will have myself, we will have others that will select the games again. This year, I've got a 40-some-year track record. And, of course, our buddy Steve Merrill from Wager Talk. So another incentive to join us on Patreon and on YouTube and become a member. Let's check out our memberships. Check out the ticker down below. Madamus Prime Entertainment, Hall of Fame City Gaming, Katrina, Tony, Dublib, Zeke, DK Fishing, Rowan, and others. We also have Lonnie, Only Talk Sports, Matt, Jared, Urban, Traveling Fools, Erica, thank you so much for being a member, as well as JR Sports Rankings, Timbo and Tim Prangley, thank you for your contributions and for being a member. We also have John and Mark and Joseph and David and Sean and Exploring with Ben. And I want to note also that if you're not a member here at the Voice of College Football, again, you can do that on the front page of the channel. Jackson, Peter, and Daniel, thank you so much for being members here at the Voice of College Football. Also considering that there are some other members here on both Patreon and YouTube that may not be represented here. So we will get your names up there. Will N.D., Shoelace Sooner, Matthew, Jeffrey, thank you so much for being a member. Thomas and Tim, Hoodie, Buckeyes Battle Cry, Shane and Keith, thank you for your membership and your support, Eric and Keith, right here at the Voice of College Football. Next up, I thought that this was quite humorous. Wanted to point this out. Now, this was not humorous. This is serious stuff right there. Disputed National Champions. It's the finest book on the market. I don't know who wrote this thing, but it's really good. I've read it a few times. It's almost like I almost wrote it myself. I've read it so many times. But it's a heck of a book. Disputed National Champions. You can get that on Amazon. And you can grab the link that we provide down in the description section. And we thank our buddy Moose. Thank you so much for chiming in with the Disputed National Championship book. If you're a Michigan fan, you'll want to check out 1997 in particular. We run through the entire 1990s. We dissect every year. And this is what we do. Basically, we set up the year to say 1990. This is what was going on in college football. These were the teams that were expected to vie for a national championship. These were the storylines leading into 1990. And then we run through the season. We give you the preseason top 5 teams or anybody that was factored into the anticipated national championship race. We give you the preseason rankings. Then we run through the season, give you all the key moments, the key games, the controversial calls, all of it that tell the story of the season. And then we say, these are the postseason matchups. And then give you a synopsis of what happened in the postseason that mattered. And then, boom, here are the final rankings with the national championship. And then we break it down. Did it make sense? Who was left out? Who got screwed? Who got elevated? And then what was the aftermath of that season? How did that season impact college football? How did that season impact a particular team, a coach? Was it the beginning and dawning of a legacy, of a dynasty, or was it the conclusion of one? How did that season and those teams that vied for a championship impact college football going forward? And we do that for 1990, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. And then we take all those seasons and we say, you know what? Let's have some fun. Let's take all those seasons, and each one of those seasons we plug into the BCS era, the 4-team college football playoff era, the 12-team era, and we say, this is how these teams would have been ranked, and therefore this is who would have been in the playoff going forward if you would take 1990 through 99 and plug it into the preceding systems. I also find it interesting to say in 1990, there were no conference championship games. Who would have played in conference championship games? We line that up for you. And then I also enjoy the portion where we say, if this season played out this now with Nebraska and Rutgers and Maryland going to the Big Ten, and with Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, in terms of the current configuration that is so markedly different than what it was in the 90s, what would those conference championship games look like? And then we break it down from there. So we had fun writing it. Hopefully you will have fun reading it. We have not, to date, received a negative response about this book. So if you have a negative response, please let me know. I will respect it, and I will take it into account that if we ever get the opportunity to write next edition, which I would love to do at some point, then I will take that into account. But to date, we appreciate the 60, 70, 80 responses that we've received and all the positive feedback on Disputed National Champions. Mike 3883, thank you so much for reminding everyone. It's a simple task to please hit the like button. The only reason you do that is not to stroke my ego, although it's excessively stroked when you hit the like button. But that's not why you do it. It's because the YouTube algorithm says, X number of people are watching this live stream or this video and nobody likes it. Well, nobody else should watch it then. But if the high percentage of the people that are watching also hit the like button, then YouTube says, you know what? We're going to show this to more people. So I appreciate that. Hi, Karen. Karen says, not sure why I'm 45 minutes late, but hello. Hi, Karen. Someone once said, better late than never. So I will say that too. It's good to see you. Dave's here. It's always good to see from Dave as well. I knew as soon as I said that, I knew as soon as they came out of my mouth that there would be mines in the gutter. And maybe mine was as well, because I thought the same thing. So, all right, let's. Yeah. George even liked the video. If this meets George's standards, that's pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing. So again, Disputed National Champions, the link is in the description section of this video. And, you know what you can do? Buy yourself this book, and hey, you can what do they call that when you re-gift? You can re-gift it. Gift it to yourself. I would love to see you buy 2 books instead and keep one and then gift one for somebody else. But if you really want to be cheap, and this is a cheap book, it's a very valuable book. It's an inexpensive book. We'll put it that way. $9.99. Actually, the self-publishing house that helped me write the book. So I didn't do this completely on my own, but at the same time, I did not have a full-fledged publisher. So I basically was guided through the process. So it was a self-publishing school. They actually told me after a couple months to raise the price to $13.99. I have yet to do that. So you could always purchase the book and keep it in pristine condition and then re-gift it for Christmas. But we would rather have you think early Christmas gift. Eric is saying, can George narrate the audiobook version? If you could guarantee, what would I like to see out of this book? If you could guarantee 10,000 sales, I don't know what the audiobook would run for. We don't have one of those. I know I'm thinking crazy here, but I kind of thought that, I don't know that I should really put myself in this position, but I actually thought that I might be a decent choice to do the audiobook. I don't know. I thought maybe for some reason it might roll off my tongue fairly easily, that I've actually, I don't know, kind of lived this book a little bit. I don't know. I thought that I could do a capable job. Morgan Freeman, he may cost a little bit, but let's get to 1,000 sales for this book. Let's get to 1,000 sales. Let's make that the first goal. 1,000 sales for the big book, Disputed National Champions. Well, thank you, George. Despite the vote of confidence for George to do the audiobook, George might be a little too enthusiastic for the 1996 season when a certain team won the national championship. I think that might stand out above the other seasons. So that may not be effective, may not be fair, may be too biased if George is just trumpeting the 1996 Florida Gators throughout the book. I don't know if George could read a script. Not that he can't read the script. I think that he might go off script a bit too much. That's possible. I don't know what makes me think that. All right. Also, as we remind everyone that our On the Move show is coming up every Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern time, which means we just did one last night with Leanne Herring. And of course, you can catch Leanne's work at the Rebel Walk and at Cat's Wire, and most importantly, here at the Voice of College Football. So Leanne does a phenomenal job connecting with all sorts of recruits across the nation. And so you can trust with her work. She is not taking that from message boards or from 247 Sports or anything like that. She is having communication directly with coaches and players and scouts. And so we get together and we would love for this to blow up. And it should. Our recruiting and transfer portal update live show On the Move every Wednesday at 8:30 Eastern time. Speaking of which, a number of players that we talked about on Wednesday night, they actually reposted and commented and thanked us for the coverage. And so a number of the handles that you see on that post in particular are some of the best players in the country who checked out the show. So we thank them. Also, this caught my eye. we are all awaiting the college football season, mostly just so we can get to bowl games like this, the Bahamas Bowl. Every time I hear the name the Bahamas Bowl, I think of the Bahamas. And then I also think of what I think was the first Bahamas Bowl. This involved, was it Central Michigan? It wasn't Eastern because they weren't wearing green. It was either Central or Western Michigan. I believe it was Western Michigan. No, Central Michigan, I believe. And somebody like Western Kentucky. And somebody was losing. I don't remember who pulled the game out, but one of them was winning like 45-10. And there was this remarkable, ridiculous comeback. I was watching the beginning of this game, and then I went shopping with my kids. And I came back and found out this was a 1-point game. And then I found out how crazy it was that one team came all the way back to would-be tie, but they bypassed the PAT and overtime to try to win the game. They blew the 2-point conversion, and the other team held on to win 48-47. But I do not recall. I think it was Western Kentucky and Central Michigan. If Jackson's around, he probably knows. And if he doesn't, he'll look it up. But I wouldn't be surprised if he just grabbed that one. Regardless, I found this amusing. So, as reported by Brett McMurphy, Bahamas Bowl will not be held in the Bahamas this year. That should stand on its own. The Bahamas Bowl will not be held in the Bahamas this year. Therefore, it's not the Bahamas Bowl. Okay, the bowl will be played this season at a site to be determined. Let's play in Detroit. That's as close as I can think to the Bahamas in regards to feel, vibe, environment, atmosphere, climate. Let's move the Bahamas Bowl to Detroit. Okay, this is the second time in 3 years the bowl was moved. In 2023, the Bahamas Bowl was played in Charlotte when the stadium in the Bahamas was not available. And it's not being reported here why it's being moved this year. So for the second time in 3 years, the Bahamas Bowl is not going to be played in the Bahamas. So it's not the Bahamas Bowl. They should not call it the Bahamas Bowl. Call it blank location bowl. That's what it should be going forward. Blank location bowl. 2 years ago, they played it in Charlotte. It was the Charlotte Bowl. It's now going to be something else. And what else was fun that came up here recently? Check out our Ole Miss live show and also the interview we did with newly committed 2026 wide receiver Corey Barber. That's on the Ole Miss channel. So we appreciate Corey being here. Of course, one of the great shows that I do each and every week is the Ohio State Show with Steve Hellwagon and Tony Gerdeman. That's every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the Buckeyes channel. And what do you think of this one? Better all-time program, Miami or Florida State? Not much response on this one. Why? I don't know. We had some great guests this week, including Zach Smith of Menace to Sports, also Marty Leap of Penn State Rivals, Eric Scopel from Duck Territory 247 Sports Oregon, and others. All right, folks. No calls on the docket. Looks like I'm off the hook today. We appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. Please make it on back on Friday. Your assignment is to bring a friend or 2 or 50. My preference would be 50. Bring 50 friends in on Friday, and we will, let's see, I'm looking at 17 times 50. We would have a mere 650 people. That would be a good start to the future. So you have yourself a great day, and think about what kind of qualifications you would like in a commissioner of college football. I believe, as I have said, it's not like this just hit me, like it has certain people hit them in the last 6 months or a year. And I understand that this isn't what you think about all the time, but being as ingrained in college football as I have, I've said since about 2013, and even before that, but it certainly was crystal clear starting with this NIL issue with Johnny Manziel. That's really where it started to become a warning sign that issue and others point to needing a governing body or a commissioner. It works well in Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, a commissioner of college football. So we may want to, that's a good show in the next couple of weeks. What type of attributes, what type of qualities and characteristics would you like to see in a college football commissioner? Aha, let's do that. Next week, as long as I get my act together, we will present our all-time program rankings. That should be a whole lot of fun. Again, that's going to be coming up next week. If I can get the work done in time, we will present a different conference every day with a video and a follow-up conversation with you on our program rankings. Right here at the Voice of College Football, we appreciate your contributions. Please leave any super chats there. Also, Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App are much appreciated. Become a member. And again, that will get you into our watch party coming up in a couple of weeks, Ohio State, Michigan 2021. See you on Friday. I apologize. We had the mute on. So I just had to ask here, Levi. ... Do we have to, ? Do we have to pertaining to what? Do we have to, what did I say? Good show. Dave's here. You can go watch a game in Michigan on New Year's outside. Big Bowl. Levi must have left us. I was just curious to see what that meant. Bring friends. Yes. Bring friends, Mike. Bring friends to the show. This is a grassroots effort. If you show up, Mike, that is good enough for me. However, if you want to do your best, then you bring in some friends. Everybody bring in some friends. Be good to your friends. You want to do something nice for them, introduce them to the Voice of College Football. I Bleed Orange, thank you so much for being here. I hope you're aware, I Bleed Orange, of our Tennessee channel that has existed for quite some time, but it's finally getting that spark, that boost of confidence and content that it needs. We've got a weekly Tennessee show. Lock in on that. All right, everyone. We appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. Please hit the like on the way out. And as Mike3883 is telling everyone, bring a friend or 2 or 50 with you on Friday.